Joe talks about Joe. And now, your host, Joe Slepsky.
Hello again, everybody. It's me, your host, Joe Slepsky, and welcome back to Joe on Joe. This is the only podcast where I covered every episode of the Sunbow cartoon, the DIC, and even G.I. Joe Extreme, and every issue of the Marvel Real American Hero comic book, page by page, panel by panel. This is especially important this week because it's another episode of You on Joe, and we're talking about you, the listener, the Joe fan. You love America's favorite fighting force. You are the star of the show and your specific favorite aspect of G.I. Joe. Whatever it is you love, the cartoons, the comics, the toys, everything you want to talk about is up for discussion on G.I. Joe, and we're talking comic books today. So if you want to participate and be a guest on Joe, please reach out to me on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, at Joe on Joe Pod. You can send me an email to joeonjoepod@gmail.com. And let me know what topic you'd like to cover. The more specific, the better, but I will absolutely work with you and we'll find an awesome topic and we'll get you on the show. It's very easy. And while you're online, you can please give me a rate and review on whatever podcast app you are listening to. Every review helps. Or if you're inclined, you can also visit our Patreon page at patreon.com/JoeOnJoePod, and you can help support the show in that manner. And speaking of support listeners, now, a few weeks back, you heard me speaking with Austin Huff about his upcoming Super Joe comic book, and we had discussed that he was going to be distributing it at some of the conventions this summer. Well, I'm very excited to see what he has in store, but I need to tell you that the plans have changed. Since we had that interview, Austin shifted gears, and the book has now become a Kickstarter project. But that is not all. He has not only enlisted such comic luminaries as Bob Hall and Netho Diaz to contribute to the project, but just last week, Austin secured the participation of none other than the father of G.I. Joe himself, Larry Hama. That's right, everybody. Larry Hama has joined the Super Joe project. He's going to be contributing an alternate cover with another comic book legend, Jeff Isherwood. So please, 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 please do us a favor. Head over to Kickstarter and do a search for Super Joe Unlimited. Check out what they have in store. There's a whole lot of tiers. You can find one that suits you. Give them your support. The campaign ends on July 11th. At this point, they're a little over halfway to the stated goal, so let's give Super Joe, Austin, and Larry Hama the support they deserve. I'm excited to see the results there. And while you're on the internet and talking podcasts, let's give some love to our great sponsors, the Movies and a Meal podcast. In the beginning of time, the smallest organism gained sentience and thought to itself, I really need a good meal. Then, a bunch of other stuff happened, and finally the Lumiere brothers started showing movies in France. This was all the inspiration that fellow broadcasters Brad, Keith, and Ben needed to combine these two primal needs into the Movies and a Meal podcast. The Movies and a Meal is one of the most casual and relaxing film talk podcasts you could ever listen to. These three friends enjoy a good meal together while talking all about the movies. And not just reviews, they do favorite lists, comparison discussions, genre talks, anything and everything that you can think of. They've even broken their solemn promise inherent in the name and branched out into TV talk. So I love the variety of films they bring to the table. They cover new releases, classics, cult films, often in one episode. It's really a delight to listen to, and it has something for every movie fan out there to enjoy. So if you're looking to grow your podcast library, if you eat meals, and if you've ever seen a movie, then you should give Ben, Keith, and Brad a listen and subscribe to the Movies and a Meal podcast. They've been a great sponsor to this show. I love the Movies and a Meal podcast, and I'd like all of you to love them too. Now, more podcast talk. There's so many great G.I. Joe podcasts out there. I love you all, but none of them have the lineage and just the sheer star power than What's on Joe Mind. Now, I have been very honored to join them quite a few times on their Tuesday night live stream. I always have a great time. We have a lot of laughs. It is stupid fun. So it was about time that I asked one of their hosts, Racktime Rob, to join me on the show. His brother Mike's been on the show, and I need to share that love. Rob is a great G.I. Joe mind. If you've ever heard him on his show, he's always quick with a smile and a laugh. He's a very kind guy to speak with. I loved our conversation, and he chose for his topic the absolutely stellar run of A Real American Hero comic books issues 10 through 19. G.I. Joe readers know that these books are absolutely where the comic book took off into the stratosphere. It introduced legendary new characters, there were actual deaths, and real story growth for a nascent toy-backed comic book. I absolutely love this run of the comics, and Rob does as well, so we had a really great time getting into them. So much so that we rambled on for 2 hours. So this is part 1 of our discussion. Come back next week for part 2. And in the meantime, check out Racktime Rob, his brother Mike, the honcho Mark Weber, and Joe Colton every Tuesday on the What's on Joe Mind podcast. It's a great show. You're going to love it if you're not already listening to it. So let's dig into G.I. Joe, A Real American Hero, issues 10 through 19. You picked a good topic.
So this is, this might be my favorite run of the comic book, just because it was just, there's a heavy nostalgia, in it for me, but just it's all the world building that goes in,
it's so true. Like if you look at the first 9 issues, well, we're doing 10 to 19, right?
Yeah.
If you look at the first 9 issues, they're great. But they're also very formulaic. They feel like an episode of a cartoon.
They're one and done.
Yeah. And Larry certainly infuses a lot of character in there, but there's not a lot of world building, I would say.
Yeah, there's stuff that gets, in those first 9 issues, there's stuff that gets picked up later.
Mm-hmm.
Like of course Quinn and the frequency modulator that they're going for in issue 2.
Right.
Which shows up even, into issue 68 and stuff. It was the Terradrome, and then, issue 5, I was just thinking about this morning. I was like, issue 5 is like the first time we get mention of Springfield being Cobra headquarters.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's the first time you see, and of course you see like somebody going underground into it underneath like the car wash and stuff.
Right.
And then, of course, the drum corps that's chasing after the Mobet is the Springfield Drum and Bugle Corps. So,
Thanks for crapping on my point, Rob.
But outside of that, though, I'm sorry, but outside of that, everything else
you're totally, you absolutely are. Yeah. You are factually correct. And like in retrospect, you see Larry, I read it as you see someone coming up with ideas that by the time they get to issue 10, those ideas are put into motion. Like they're little seeds that then sprout,
Yeah.
Where let's put them up against an evil drill instructor. Let's put them up against, they got to have Russian counterparts, all those things like that. And yes, the Springfield stuff. And then here's a here's a mercenary character that they're, like Quinn is last week we did, or a couple weeks ago we did a Star Wars versus G.I. Joe, and Quinn is almost like their Jaxon. Remember the Green Rabbit?
Yeah,
from Star Wars. Yeah. Yeah, that's kind of like what Quinn is, except obviously much cooler. But
yeah,
this, like, you've got an established franchise with a bunch of characters, and then in order to do more interesting things that he wouldn't be limited by the IP, here's your Quinn.
Yeah.
This
is a character I can take in some different places. I don't have to worry about.
Yes.
Marvel Hasbro going.
Yeah, and that also would have been at the same time. That was within 5 years of each other. Also doing Micronauts that Marvel did, similar concept. Bug, you remember Bug from Micronauts, fan favorite kind of a thing. Same thing there. He wasn't part of the Microlot, and so much so that Marvel still owns him. They can do Bug. The Bug has shown up in Adventures without the Micronauts because it's a Marvel product.
Most of those, I think Bug and Marionette, are owned by Marvel.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that is an omnibus I'm looking forward to. I never really put together a full Micronauts run, so I really want to get that.
And I think they can use Arcturus Ron too. They just can't have like Micronaut gear on them.
Yeah, I think the craziest thing is they can use the dire wraiths are theirs, but the name isn't, or like where the look of them is.
Yeah,
so they can use the wraiths in Marvel, and they can use the wraiths. Well, it would have been at the time at IDW. Who knows what the future, for the ROM publishing is going to be. But like, so they had the dire wraiths, but they had to be totally different.
I'm wondering, with this, since they haven't made any announcements on, the Joe and Transformers license, I'm wondering if maybe Hasbro hasn't split their property license, and and that might be why Marvel can do Micronauts and
So
ROM.
your brother's going to be upset with you, Rob, because you're not even following your own podcast's Twitter.
I don't have Twitter at all, so he knows this.
No, it actually did officially come out the other day. It was officially announced. Yeah.
He mentioned that to me.
Well, we actually, so you guys are, I'm blessed.
But he told me it was just like a leaked.
It was a leak. I'm blessed to have been invited on your show on occasion, and I always love being on What's on Joe Mind. You guys are all a lot of fun, and on that last episode, I think if you remember, we all talked about it after the show because I was told it was pretty confidential because it was on like a retailer summit that it was leaked.
Yeah.
The Joes and Transformers are back with technically back with Image from the Devil's Due Day, but with Skybound for the first time. But they haven't announced ROM because Marvel's doing the ROM omnibus.
Yeah.
I posited at some point maybe it's a situation of when the rights just were up, Marvel stepped in and said, we want to get the rights to reprint our old stuff.
It's possible too,
because the fans want it and all that stuff. And so at some point, maybe we do get a legacy, actual thick G.I. Joe omnibus, or obviously multiple ones that do the whole line.
Maybe, but I mean, Skybound could do that too. I mean, they're doing it already, with Invincible and Walking Dead, the nice big.
No, but they can't do the I don't think Marvel's going to let them do the Marvel comics. I guess IDW.
They might. It all depends on how the ownership works.
Yeah, I guess IDW did, and maybe the ROM and Micronauts are different because they are so intrinsically tied into the Marvel universe. And G.I. Joe, while we've always made the point of the technically there's a Spider-Man and a Hulk there. They're not as tied in. Yeah.
Well, I mean the Hulk. Oh, and speaking of issue 10,
right. He's a cosplayer.
Yeah, I mean it's just a guy at a mall opening.
Right.
And I mean,
but he exists.
That happened every weekend on Long Island.
Yeah. But Spider-Man is in the Transformers, and then the Transformers are in the G.I. Joe.
Yeah, that's where it gets weird.
Right. So maybe that might be the legal case there, where they stepped in and said, "Well, we want to do a complete run, but we're not going to because ROM was crossing over with it's becoming Joe on ROM.
I've got some.
ROM is crossing over with the Marvel universe every other week.
Yeah, I mean, there's Marvel guest stars in ROM. I mean, I have like some Avengers issues where I think they're fighting the dire wraiths.
Yeah, the X-Men. Yeah, they totally are. Yeah, it's great, and it's fun. And why wouldn't you at the time?
Marvel used to do that with those toy props.
They used to have fun.
Yeah, Godzilla. I mean, they
100%.
Shield every week.
Godzilla and Shogun Warriors was the continuation of the Steranko Shield comics.
Yeah.
It really was. It was the
adventures. We don't have anything for Shield to do.
Yeah, it was the adventures of Dum Dum Dugan versus Kaiju. That's what those
Kaiju and giant robots.
Yeah, that's what those comic books were, which they are. I've recommended those books to so many because they're really still relatively. The Godzilla ones are getting more expensive, but for the most part, like Shogun Warriors are relatively cheap. And Herb Trimpe did a ton of that artwork.
Yeah,
I've recommended that to so many young kids when they come in the store because kids love Kaiju and Godzilla and stuff. And I've just said, you got to read this old book. It is awesome. And they look at it a little skeptically, and I'm like, no. These giant robots fighting giant monsters? Yes.
I think the last issue of Marvel's Godzilla is like Godzilla versus the Avengers.
It is. Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And Fantastic Four, they show up at the end.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's great. That's a great run. But we're here to talk about G.I. Joe 10 through 19.
That's right.
Rack time.
Enough of these other toys.
No, forget about all these other amazing things that we love. But yeah, I think I absolutely agree. We both celebrate this run, and it's just such a, what this feels like? To talk about another property, this feels like the Dark Phoenix saga, where the underlying element of it was Snake Eyes and Quinn and Venom. And they kept showing up, and they kept having life, kept having adventures. Then it would come to the forefront, and then other adventures would happen. But then we'd check in on them, and they think they're dead, and whereas same thing with Dark Phoenix it was a lot of it was about Jean, but then the X-Men would go on another adventure. It's just Jean was losing her mind, and then it would culminate in, the death of Jean. And this one, in this case, culminates in, when you get to 19, it's the death of Flag and Quinn and also Venom.
Dr. Venom.
Yeah. So very much like that, which was the way that comics operated at the time.
Yeah. Subplots. Imagine.
Yeah. What a crazy idea.
Not writing for the trade,
right?
Making people come back for the issues over and over.
Yeah, exactly. Like what a novel concept. So often I've read the details of the way they used to plot. And I feel like it might have been a Larry interview, but for some reason I think it was also oh no, I think it's Paul Levitz spoke about it at the time, where he just would have a running, picture 3 tracks. And those 3 tracks are the subplots. And he had he said, each issue I would devote this number of pages to subplot A, B, and C. And then C would move up to B would move up to A, and so on and so forth. And he was always introducing a new C to keep people coming back the following month by the time it gets to A.
Yeah. And and he was working on Legion at the time.
Yeah.
So with 30 regular characters, it's easy to crack in some new. And again, for G.I. Joe, how many extra characters?
It's a very comparable. Yeah, it's a really comparable mindset as well, 100%. And the great part about doing stories like that versus the writing for the trade style that we're talking about today is not every subplot is going to be to everyone's flavor. Let's just be real. Sometimes people may not have loved the Quinn Snake Eyes subplot, but that's okay because it's a B or a C. And then in this issue, it's a giant tank battle in New York, or it's really about, this one's about Destro. And you're like, oh, I love Destro. I don't really care about the Snake Eyes stuff. So on and so forth. There's always something, if you're writing it well, every subplot should be somewhat different. Therefore, it should catch someone's eye in a different way.
Exactly. Yeah. Something for everybody. And then you're always kind of paying something off, so that people feel satisfied. It's not lingering on forever like, the legacy vibes.
Yeah, you get right. The Clone Saga. Yeah,
the Clone Saga.
Right, you do. You get good resolution in every issue of a comic book, which I think every time comics. So this year in the movies, we've had Fast X, which I enjoyed it, but it ends on a part 2's coming. Spider-Verse, spoilers, ends on a part 2's coming, and I enjoyed Spider-Verse too,
I've got tickets for that today.
Oh, it's going to be great. You're going to love it.
Yeah.
And then I've seen The Flash, and no spoilers, but there's a bit of ambiguity at the end. And you're like, And I'm not sitting here complaining about the stingers that Marvel would put out. Because a lot of people use that as a complaint of like, it never ends. It's always more. Most of the Marvel movies have a nice succinct ending for that adventure.
Yeah.
And then they go, oh yeah, but this other stuff's happening too, so get excited for the next one. That's how comics used to operate.
Yeah.
And comics don't do that anymore. It's just a wait until the 4th or 5th or 6th issue, then you're going to get resolution to this story.
Yeah, the supporting character is another lost art in modern comics.
Yeah.
Having those casts of characters that aren't like the superhero.
Mm-hmm. Peter's the entire staff of the Daily Bugle used to be as fascinating.
Yeah, I mean, the only comic that still messes with a supporting cast anymore is Superman.
Right.
Because those supporting characters are as iconic as as Superman himself almost. So.
Yeah, and they serve as a release valve. So when Peter would go through some trials and tribulations at the Bugle. With Joe Robertson when he was, remember turned out that he went to high school with Tombstone or something.
Yeah,
he was neighborhood friends with Tombstone. Like that whole subplot, what that does is it gives the writer the ability to add stakes to a story, real stakes and real change and real development without altering the status quo of your hero every single month.
Yeah.
And now, without those supporting characters, every month it's not the Spider-Man he's got a sister. Oh, now he's rich. Oh, now he's now he's lost his powers. Now he's this. Now.
Mary Jane's dating some schlub.
Right. Versus sometimes it's comfortable and world building to just have your character be who he is and let the story, while revolving around him and he's involved in resolution, let the story be about someone else.
Yeah.
It's kind of like Batman Returns.
Yeah.
You know?
Although Batman Returns, like I said, I can't get into that movie.
Oh, you don't like it? I've always liked it.
It's not bad, but it's not like great either.
Yeah. Well, then
Just because, and my problem is Penguin and Catwoman. Much more Penguin than.
Oh yeah, that's true. Yeah. Well, I've always loved it, just because it's a little darker. But for purpose of this conversation, it's really also the first Keaton Batman too. In that Batman doesn't change. We don't need Batman to change.
No.
You know, like he's Batman. It's about the Joker, and it's about Penguin and Catwoman, whatever, you know, whether you love it or not. In Dark Knight, Nolan, I think, found a way to get some growth out of him over the course of those 3 movies, you know, which was kind of his magic trick. That was the really cool part, that you found a way to do that. But I don't necessarily need to see Batman going through an existential crisis every time. I just want to see him have an awesome adventure, and then you give us some good resolution with other characters. I think the same applies to comic books for me.
Because presently Batman's going through an existential crisis every day.
Yeah. And so when we're recording this before Flash comes out, so by the time this hits, actually the Flash will be out for a few days. So with zero spoilers, but Michael Keaton's the best part of that movie.
I figured.
Fabulous. He's fabulous in that movie. Yes.
That's not a spoiler at all. I mean, that's the only reason I'm going to see it.
Yeah. I'm telling you right now, you will not be disappointed. In the screening I saw, the crowd was into it, but every time he came on screen, the crowd cheered and clapped. So and he's in it a fair amount, so that's a smart move on their part. I think it was funny how before those trailers started dropping, it was rumored that they were, because of the whole HBO and Warner Brothers changeover in ownership and the Batgirl movie get canceled and all that stuff, that they were cutting Keaton out of the Flash. Oh,
yeah. And you can say no, he's in there.
No, absolutely, that would have been a huge mistake. Oh my God!
Let's rely on Ezra Miller. He's got no problems. Right?
Yeah, no, there's not problematic. There's no controversy surrounding him. He's the next Tom Hanks.
Yeah, he's America's little dumpling.
Yeah, exactly. Well, anyway, back to G.I. Joe.
Yeah,
I think all this conversation is great, Rob. Though I do, because it centers around, for my money, how superhero comics stories are best presented, because superheroes, it's a different engine, you know. It's a different, there's different drives that make those stories work than, you know, let's say a war comic book, or, you know, certainly a romance comic book or what have you. There is a soap opera element to it, and we can't, there's no denying that. And so with a soap opera, there's a status quo with slow change.
Yeah.
And when the change happens, it needs to be built up to it and big to build up a moment. But then you have to have release valves, and you have to have a lot of characters that go through that have different adventures to keep a variety of people interested. And that's what Larry absolutely does with G.I. Joe 10 through 19. He hits that running.
Yeah. And like I said, starting with issue 10, it's where, all right, now, like I said, it looks like this book's going to be around for a little while.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the sales are picking up. Kids are buying these toys.
Yep.
Let's play.
Yes. So it starts. So you're 100% right.
He's not afraid to lay any groundwork and take this story to the place that he wants to go with.
Mm-hmm. I wonder if some of that had to do with Hasbro / licensing relaxing, you know. Now I've heard, I don't think he's ever really complained about it, in with the exception of saying oh, you have to use whatever Battle Force 2000. Yeah. But I don't think there was ever a lot of interference. But I could imagine early on there was just you have to smooth out some lines of communication. Do you know anything? Have you ever heard anything about that? Maybe early on they were a little tighter about it. Then they saw that he's doing this great stuff and were like, go for it.
I don't know. from what I've heard about, I mean, like when they handed him GI Joe, I mean, basically it was, he wanted to get into writing. He was doing a lot of editing. When he worked at Marvel previously, he'd been a penciler.
Mm-hmm.
And wanted to get more into the writing aspect, and they said, well, we've got this toy book that we just signed a contract for that nobody else wants to do. He's like, I'll take it,
Mm-hmm.
because he was the last office left.
Well, a lot of times in that scenario you just painted, we'll call it a scenario of desperation, for lack of a better term. Desperation on both the publishing side and, like no one wants it. And so no one's paying attention. You get some great creative results out of it.
Oh yeah. I mean, that's Marvel in the early 70s to a T, because, they're pumping out 60 books a month on one editor.
Mm-hmm.
And so like, I can't keep track of all this. That's why they were churning editors and chiefs out like crazy, until Jim Shooter came in and said, you know what, we're going to break this up a little bit. I'll be editor in chief. We'll have a bunch of other editors.
Yeah, that was also when editors had a better sense of creativity and story.
Yeah, a lot of them were former writers,
right? Exactly.
Or had been doing this for a while. Like DC was full of, I mean, it always had bunches of editors, and I mean, in particular, like Julie Schwartz would be like, all right, let's come up with an idea for this issue.
Now, put a monkey on the cover.
Put a monkey on the cover.
Then we'll work backwards from there.
Hey, and there we have the creative.
Yeah, boom. Well, I mean, speaking of editors, you've got and I didn't check. Is he the editor all throughout these issues? Denny O'Neil. And
Denny O'Neil, I think, picks up
brilliant mind.
Yeah, he picks up, I think, like an issue, 7 or 8, and then goes until he goes back to DC, I think.
Yeah. So this is
in like 85, 86.
Right. So these are all Denny O'Neil edited books. So that's a stamp of approval that it's going to be hard to beat. With Larry Hama writing it, who, like you said, comes from an editorial background. That's two sharp creative minds crafting these stories and building these worlds. So let's jump into 10. And we'll just kind of like skim over concepts and stuff. We won't necessarily go page by page, panel by panel, because we'll be here for 18 hours. But we've got, it's a nice little town like ours, and it's the assault on Springfield, or not assault, I guess, but it's their first initial foray into what is the Springfield place.
Yeah.
With that great cover of the facade houses and Cobra's hiding behind the houses. That's so cool.
Yeah. And with Snake Eyes and Scarlet kind of like skipping down the street.
Yeah. And Scarlet with such a smile on her face. She is walking down a suburban street with a crossbow locked and loaded. And she's like, yes, we're hunting suburbanites.
It's about time.
Yeah. I don't know what we're going to find here, but I'm so happy to be in the suburbs.
Yeah, clearly Scarlet had spent a lot of time on Staten Island, and she's ready to take it out on something.
Yes. Bridge and tunnel.
I mean, and that's the opinion of Staten Island. It's like, oh yeah, so that is the forgotten borough, and I think for most people, there's a reason we forget it. It's
well, what I dig is the action gets going real fast, right? So it's they get the whole team. They're in New York in a building. They get caught right away, and within 6 pages, Snake Eyes is strapped up to the
brainwave scanner.
Brainwave scanner, yeah.
And we meet Dr. Venom.
We also get our first glimpses into Snake Eyes' both his facial origins and his his emotional origins as well.
Yeah, we get those little dips into his past, which I missed this issue as a kid.
Mm-hmm.
And then I read it later when Marvel started reprinting, G.I. Joe into little digests.
Yeah.
So it was great because then I could fill in the holes of, because I didn't have this one, and I had issues 11 and 12. And 12, they mentioned what happened in 10. So I was like, all right, I missed something in that issue.
Well, that's another thing that they don't do. I do see them do it occasionally, but they don't certainly do it as much as they used to, is to tell you, hey, comic collector, go back and read
editor's
10.
notes.
Yeah, editor's notes. Go back and read 10. I don't care if you buy the single issue off the shelf or go get it digitally. Go back and read it. And you're going to love it. That needs to happen more.
It really should happen more, because really it made no sense for it to happen back then, given the fact that, comic book shops were only emerging.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And you couldn't get those back issues.
Right.
You had to be lucky and get a garage sale or something.
Yeah. Now you can get them. You can get comics everywhere you want to get them. So they should be referencing. And like digital, I don't think they have this, but they should be hyperlinked to it. It should be go back to 10. You should click on that editor's note and it should pop up. You want to go check out issue 10?
Yeah.
Why not? I do want a backstory issue about Snake Eyes' prom date. Whatever happened to her, she looks adorable. She's got a little bob. She's got a little, what was that, ice skater?
Yeah, the little Dorothy Hamill.
Dorothy Hamill. She's got a little Dorothy Hamill going on. I would love a Snake Eyes at prom. So that's a high school reunion. Snake Eyes and Scarlet go back there. And she's there. And she's actually been turned Cobra over the years. Because somehow, some way, she put together that Snake Eyes was that guy. And he went and, so she's turned into a Cobra stooge. And she has to, Snake Eyes has to turn her back with the power of love in sign language.
I mean, really, they can't have just had a nice time at the dance and went to the Howard Johnson's and got fried clam.
Have you ever met Snake Eyes? Everyone in his life is connected. Everyone he's ever met has studied at the dojo, murdered someone. Snake Eyes is G.I. Joe Spider-Man.
Yeah.
He absolutely is. If this was Clutch, I get it. She's currently living in the suburbs with 3 kids. I'm like, oh, I used to date that guy. Oh, you look. She was driving by at the accident, at the time when Snake Eyes' family got plowed in the accident. And she goes, oh my God, look at that. And then she got hit. Yes, exactly. Yeah. Yes, there was a tragic accident. Snake Eyes, he goes to yet another grave and he lays down a boutonniere, like a prom corsage boutonniere thing. And is like,
carnation.
Yeah, this is my, he doesn't say it, but Scarlett has to say it for us. Oh, that's his high school prom date. She got sideswiped by a truck when she was watching his family burn alive in the wreckage. The last thing she saw was his twin sister's face melt off, which, because they were twins, it looked just like Snake Eyes' face. So it was prophetic. And to this day, she haunts his dreams.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was an Armco furniture truck.
100%. Yeah, totally. We also meet Billy for the first time. I believe unnamed, correct? They don't.
Yes.
Yeah.
I don't think they name him until, about 20 issues down the line.
Yeah. But
when they bring him back.
That's totally Billy.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it definitely, because he shows up. Oh, you're that kid.
Yep, exactly. We get the arcade, the hidden arcade thing, which is great, and that would come back quite a bit in the comics.
Yeah. You gotta love an arcade with a working laser cannon.
Yes. that pivots downwards.
Yeah.
Because that laser cannon is best to attack people 5 feet away from you, not airplanes coming in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You have to love Springfield. I mean, it's just a town devoted to murder and chaos.
I'm shocked that we never got a Springfield playset or all the houses flipped, like actually very much like the Mask mobile headquarters, the thing
like
in the
Bunker
volcano.
Hill.
Yeah. Where like it was a gas station and it flips to be a base. Why did we never get like Springfield-esque housing unit that just all the walls flip and it becomes a Cobra base? That would have been an amazing toy.
Because they decided to give us a Terror Drome instead.
Yeah, but the Terror Drome, no one's complaining.
Yeah.
But that would have been an amazing toy.
Oh, yeah. Well, you borrow some of your sister's stuff and just go, oh, look, this is a house.
Yeah.
Look, it's full of Cobras.
Yeah, you're not wrong. No, you're not wrong. So they escape Springfield. So they were in New York. They get kidnapped, taken to Springfield. And when
Scarlet and Snake Eyes.
Yeah, and when they leave, they're back in New York, but they don't know where they were. So that sets up that like no one really knows what Springfield is.
Yeah, they can't find their way back because unfortunately the navigation had been shot all the way through.
Right, which is such a smart idea.
And they got lucky enough to parachute out to like Bayonne.
Lucky? Would you say that's lucky? I've never been to Bayonne, but I can't imagine that.
Look, it's better than a town full of Cobras.
That is true, and that's when Scarlet face squats on the Incredible Hulk.
on the Incredible Hulk.
Yeah. Which is funny. That's a really great bit. So we go to issue 11, and it's the pipeline ploy, and now we get into full gear of introducing the next gen of Joes. Wild Bill, Doc, Snow Job, really visually different looking dudes that really make everything more exciting. It's all more apparent when you do have some green shirts in here, Breaker and Rock and Roll and
yeah, it was really different.
And they're just all in their greens, Steeler and Short Fuse, Grand Slam.
And again, we're coming in the middle of something. Like they've had Joe has been like tracking Cobra up there. They get into a firefight, and there's some Joes go down, and they need reinforcements.
Yep, and that gives you the sense that there's always something happening. They're such a big team. Not everyone is Scarlet and Snake Eyes, and so while they may have been in Springfield, although Scarlet or Snake Eyes does show up again, they knew where their bread was buttered. But there's other dudes doing other stuff, and so we can pick up in the middle of that. And I think that's really that's a real strength of a comic book like G.I. Joe, where you don't have to waste a lot of time getting to it. You can just say, "Oh no, yeah, of course. You got 30 people on this team. Let's go."
Yeah, and there's a couple issues like that. Like number 3 starts off, they've just shot up a Cobra, Cobra outpost, and but the real story is taking this robot back to the pit.
Yeah, and Medias Res. You see, we get Doc not aware that Snake Eyes is the most damaged face in all of U.S. military. I feel like someone might have prepped the doctor of the team about this guy. It's a small unit. At this point, there's like 15 dudes. Just so you know, one of them looks like a monster.
Yeah, one of them looks like Two-Face. Yeah. Except it's all one.
Yeah, all face. He's all face.
Well, he may have known that, but he might not have known that Snake Eyes is really sensitive about that.
Yeah. Well, he mentions, I got it right here. We lift that mask and check out your ears and nose. I don't think Snake Eyes has an ears and nose at this point. That's all soft cartilage. That would be and I know, and I get it. I know later on we see Mark Bright finally draws it, and I love Mark Bright's work, but I don't think it's grotesque enough.
No, it could have been worse.
Yeah, he got hit in the face with jet fuel. That soft tissue is gone.
Yeah, burning jet fuel.
Yeah, he's wearing.
He's lucky he's alive.
He's wearing Chris Farley's fake nose from Dirty Work. Is what he's wearing.
Yeah. Yeah, he was. Really, he's doing a very good cosplay of Ghost Rider.
Exactly. We also get our first teases, and do we get a full face this issue of Destro?
No,
I don't think so. I believe that's next issue, right?
Actually, it's issue 14.
Or in a couple, yeah. But we get our teases of Destro. We see his wrist rockets. He kind of takes command of the operation.
And we also get a little bit of a tease that he knows the parents.
Yes. The other great big picture thing that Larry sets up with this is the Shakespearean drama that plays out over the rest of the rest of the series, really, until the kind of when the high command breaks up, because the toy line just started making 99 Vipers every one and then one new dude. So we could, you know what I mean? But when you have that meet of Blood and Baroness and Destro, later on Mindbender, Zorana got in the mix, certainly. That was all high court drama and intrigue and scenery chewing.
Yes, and it's also an illustration of why there's never been any great villain teams in comics.
Oh yeah, because they spin out.
Because they're all gonna each one of them wants to be the top dog, and their egos won't let them sublimate down.
So it's a really wonderful example of that. Yeah, you're absolutely right. And whenever they do a a villain comic book, it's always he has to be like, I'm gonna work on the side of the angels, because you just watch people spiral out and be bad. It's rough it doesn't work out well usually.
Yeah, that's why the Joker comic did not take off.
No,
back in the 70s.
Yeah, no, 70s or even now. They tried doing a Joker comic book,
and they're still doing it.
I thought it got canceled.
No, they're still doing it, and to be quite honest, really, it was. They did. I think it ran 15. Really, probably they could have called it a miniseries, except it went 15 issues. because they had a story to tell and they told it.
Yeah, yeah.
And now they're doing it again. And like I've been picking it up, but like it's one of the ones that's on the pile that's like piling up, and I haven't gotten to.
Well, there's mass. I do think there is. I know for me there's massive Joker fatigue. You remember when Joker would show up once a year, maybe once every year and a half, maybe? And it would be a special thing, and then he'd disappear for a while.
Yeah.
Then he would show up, he'd kill a Robin, then he'd disappear for a while. Then he.
Well, even in the 70s and the 80s, DC put out an omnibus of all the Bronze Age Joker appearances, and it fits in a book.
Yeah. Yes. Yep.
I mean, it's a thick book, but it's one book.
It's a good book.
All his appearances across the entire run of DC.
Yes.
From 1970 to 1985.
Yes. Yeah. Again, that's where you go. That's the bean. I think that's the bean counter thing of people saying we need to make more money. Oh, Joker comics make more money. Let's just do a ton of Joker comics versus
I mean, I still haven't gotten over Venom fatigue.
Oh, same thing. 100% the same thing with Venom. Like it just, and now there's and I listen. I know that Venom's got its fans and stuff, but it's not the Venom that. It's not the Venom.
He's not a villain.
Yeah, exactly. It has to grow into this giant mythology where there's now the god of Venoms and
he's like some kind of cosmic being now.
All that stuff. And I'm like, man, it was so much cooler when he was just a dude that fought Spider-Man every once in a while and like brought sheer terror into his life.
Yeah, I know.
I'll say this though. I thought it was in a world where you have to, they feel they need to keep pumping out the Venom stuff. When they went real American Venom and made him a soldier suit for Flash Thompson, I thought that was a pretty sharp move.
Yeah, I mean, it was something different at that point.
Yeah,
where I felt that
Yeah, I thought the visuals were cool, and then just the concept of the government's figured out a way to kind of leash this thing. Let's put it on a super soldier and see what happens. Or a soldier, and then turn him into a super soldier, kind of thing. Yeah. But we meet back to G.I. Joe. Speaking of soldiers, we meet Airborne in this. We see the G.I. Joe glider.
We get the Battle Bear, tank.
Battle Bear, Gung Ho. This is one of those. This would have been comfortable in those first 9 issues. But because it comes after that World Builder in 10, it continues that trend because it's building, here's new characters, here's new things, here's whatever. And there's now promise of we're not done with it. And you bring back Quinn.
And we get the mysterious virus.
Right.
Which was always indeterminate. It's like, we've been exposed to a virus, we need to cure it. All right. The plague, that basically, also becomes a running subplot with Dr. Venom.
Right. Yeah, it's so good. We see, it's just good. And I gotta be honest, they draw Doc like a normal human being.
Yeah,
he's kind of chunky. He's like, looks like would be a doctor, not necessarily. I always love that the way they rendered him. A
frontline combat troop. Yeah.
Yeah, like no man, this is a doctor who happens to be military, and he's a little chunky and fun.
Yeah, he's an army captain.
He's an army
officer.
Yeah, it's great. It's really great. So we move on to issue 12. We get 3 strikes for Snake Eyes.
This issue upset me as a kid, and until I realized, he's probably.
Oh yeah. And am I correct? Oh well, yeah. And this is our first meeting of Scarface.
Yeah, we get Scarface. The track at Scarface. In fact, he's kind of the impetus for them to go to South America.
Right. So they're chasing Scarface in a van full of contraband in San Francisco. They find the Naja Trading Corporation, which is Snake Trading Corporation, and missile guidance chips are mixed in with a bunch of video game, disguised as video game circuits and stuff.
Yeah.
So the Joes go undercover now, and this undercover bit is called back to like the first issue. I love seeing the Joes undercover. I love it.
Yeah.
I love when it happens. It gives you an opportunity. It's such great character stuff to see these guys just be someone else, and like, how do they do it? Are they comfortable doing it? Stalkers.
Yeah, because I mean, in particular, like Stalker and Breaker. I mean, they're infantry. I mean, why are we? Like.
But Stalker loves it. Stalker's always going undercover. There's never an opportunity that Stalker misses to go undercover. Breaker, I think, is it loves it too, but is terrible at it.
Yeah.
We get to know more about Gung Ho. We see, and then we see more Scarface down there. And while Scarface, I love the look. The name's a little on the nose.
Yeah, and that's probably why. I mean, I think the Joes, it's natural to call him Scarface because they don't.
Yeah.
But the fact that it actually is Scarface, it's like, okay.
Yeah, but I do like it gives you more personality to these pretty nameless dudes. There's usually an aside of like, can you believe this is happening kind of a thing, but this is really putting he's the original Saw Viper, we'll say. Yeah.
Yeah, because he's just, in terms of, his look, he's just a Cobra officer.
Correct. With this, with the V, which he was just predicting the TV show V.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, it was like,
what a prediction it was.
Yeah. Sometimes they'll do those like, hey, we're doing a promotion for our radio station, man. You get our call sign tattooed on your face. We're gonna give you $350. Do it. Come on down. He was like, he's like, I love the show V so much. Gonna get the V tattooed to my face. I'm a massive Mark Singer fan. Look out, Beastmaster. That's what Snake Eyes was.
Now showing on
Scarface. Yeah. So we get Quinn arrive back again, and and this whole thing it culminates in the Quinn Scarface, triumvirate adventure. They're in this bunker on this surrounded island. Snake Eyes loses his mask, so like scares the crap out of the local dude.
Yeah.
Which is amazing. And they end up in the they end up inside the bunker, and I believe this is where the bunker blows up by the end of this. And Snake Eyes maskless with Quinn and Venom trapped in this bunker. And Snake Eyes it makes it a personal vendetta for Snake Eyes, right?
Yeah. Dr. Venom is, basically now has me trapped underwater in a bunker.
Yeah. He was his torturer with the brainwave scanner. He made him relive all of his pain and memories and all that stuff. So now I'm here to beat the crap out of you. Which, from a personal, there haven't been a lot of personal connections so far in the G.I. Joe adventures.
Yeah. And we'd find out that there'd be a million later. But,
later on. Yeah. Yeah, later on. And if that in any way influenced their decision to say, let's make Duke be in love with the Baroness and Cobra Commander be her brother, if that influenced that for the movie, then shame on Larry for doing it.
Yeah, I'm not blaming Larry for that.
That was the worst. That was taking it to the absolute worst conclusion. But in the comic, though, it was never really personal. It was always, pretty professional in that regard. This makes it personal.
Yeah, like I said, he strapped Snake Eyes to a brainwave scanner 2 issues ago.
Mm-hmm.
That had to hurt, and then he lit him on fire this issue.
Right. Oh, right. Yeah. So... took the fire to the face, which again makes me go, Mark Bright. That thing should have been a lot worse.
I think that probably the standards of good taste probably stepped in for.
That is true.
This is a toy tie-in still.
And that was such a moment. I would love to actually. I don't know if I've ever read a Mark Bright interview. I would love to see him interviewed. I imagine that was such an important thing. They said, give us a couple renditions. And I can't imagine where that was the first pass. Simply because they were, who knows what he would have produced.
Yeah. I wonder how much of that he actually remembers. Mark Bright was drawing every other comic book.
Oh, he's so good though.
But for both companies.
Yeah. I loved his Green Lantern Emerald Dawn. I really dug that. Yeah. Yeah, that's that. I thought that was such a good, and that would see. What's funny is I know a lot of old time Green Lantern fans didn't like it. That was my introduction to Green Lantern, and I was like, "Oh, they're giving him depth. He's a drinker,"
or he was at this moment.
Yeah, he was. Yeah.
He had a bad night. Yeah.
So we move on to 13. We get Last Plane from Rio Lindo, and we've got Stalker and Breaker, Gung Ho. They're in the river. The Cobras escape in the plane. Cobras being Scarface and Baroness.
And they think Snake Eyes is dead.
Yeah, and they think Snake Eyes is dead. Stalker loses his leg to an alligator. No, he doesn't. I will.
Yeah.
Well, he should have. He should have lost
probably
the leg.
should have.
Let's put it this way. that alligator's mouth is clamped on his leg, but he,
Yeah.
in a baller move, man, he pulls his trench knife out and murders that alligator.
And then they eat him.
They do. Well, of course they do. Gung Ho's there. Gung Ho's like, I've had alligator. Gung Ho was upset that they had to eat alligator because he's like, literally, I had that for breakfast.
Yeah. Gun Ho's pulling out from a pocket in his vest a waterproof pack of Cajun spices.
Yeah. Yeah. I got some Zatarans. I brought some Zatarans with me.
Zatarans and Franks.
Yeah. Who's got the chicory coffee?
Chicory.
So this issue is them making their way out of are they in Sierra Gorda or Rio Lindo? I forget. It's Rio Lindo, right?
Rio Lindo is the capital city of Sierra Gorda.
Okay. We do get there's the cameo of Laurel and Hardy, which is always, I love dumb cameos like that. But it's their escaping, which is a trope, but it's a storytelling device that Larry would use a lot in the series.
Yeah.
Of their infiltration, their exfiltration. Let's spend time with that. Let's see what that's all about. Something
went wrong. Now let's see how good these guys really are at getting out.
Yeah, and we would get that a lot. They got obviously when they actually got captured in Trucial Abysmia, or was that no? Trucial Abysmia is where everyone died. They got captured in
Moldova,
where the clowns were from. Yeah.
Or I forget the name of that. It's like Moldavia. Or
yeah. But the getting in and the getting out. The time they crashed with the Dreadnoks, and they had to team up with the Dreadnoks to get out of the country.
Yeah,
and I love it. Like, why not? That's what we're here for. That's 100% what we're here for. And if you look at, I don't know, Rob, I imagine you've read some old Sergeant Rock and war comics, right?
Not too much. Well, really, the closest thing to a war comic I ever did was G.I. Joe. I've gone back and looked at more recently.
Yeah, I don't have a lot in my collection, but there's so many of them, and I've come across so many. I literally read them all before I sell them or give them away or anything, because I don't keep them for my collection. But I love them. They're so much fun, and there's so many of them that literally are about the battle just finished. Now we got to get to the next town, or we're on our way to the next town. It's not usually the ones, at least the ones I've enjoyed, were rarely about we're going to the big battle. It was more of finishes at the end of a battle, and then they're like, well, now what? We got people trapped, and they have to deal with how do you transport, prisoners of war, kind of a story.
Yeah, and I think that's why those war comics ran well past the for DC. They ran well past the heyday of war comics.
Right. Because in the middle of the fighting, that's just a fight. It's after the fight where you get to see the characterization and the drama and the personal.
Sergeant Rock and Easy Company were individual characters.
Yeah. And you get to see the personal drama. And so that's what we're getting here too. They had this adventure, and then the adventure certainly was fun. But now let's spend time with these people and learn more about them as they try to weasel their way out of South America. We get Destro again. A bit of a hint that he does have a chrome head.
Yes. A little gleam.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a gleam. He could just
be either that or he's Elmer Fudd.
Yeah, beautiful, beautiful bald man. But it is a little bit of a gleam. The Joes are going in to help their brethren. And finally, we as the reader get alerted that Snake Eyes is still alive. Torpedo.
Well, not only that, the Cobra sent in their own troops to aid in this exfiltration of the Joes.
Right.
Is that the Joes have to get out so that they get the false information we've planted, and we can set them up for
Exactly.
But Destro planted additional false information, which actually put the Joes on the trail for the next issue.
Which sets Destro up as a better tactician than Cobra Commander.
Yeah, well, basically, he's working on getting. Yeah, he figures this is I could get one fell swoop. I can get rid of Cobra Commander and take Cobra for myself.
Right. And at the bottom of the bay, the readers hear the little tap 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 of the sunken bunker. So we know,
because Torpedo went down to look.
Right. We know they're alive,
but
the rest of them do not.
Yeah.
Got a little punji trap. Guy falls to his death on a tiger trap. That's fun.
Yep.
We get the runway from Fast and the Furious 7, the longest runway in the world.
It's the longest runway in the world, which serves them well for issue 15.
Exactly. So let's move on to 14. So now you've got full-on Destro on the cover, and you see what he looks like. If you weren't collecting the toy or anything, if you didn't see him from there, you see this bare-chested, medallion-wearing, leather-jacketed. I mean, he looks like
disco collar.
He looks like a Kiss disco king. Like something out of like Phantom of the Kiss meets the Phantom of the Fair kind of a thing. Meets over versus what's the Phantom of the Paradise?
Oh,
right. It's got a little bit of that in him.
Yeah, he's got a flair for the dramatic.
Absolutely. It's called Destro Attacks, and we don't waste any time. We show that they're under the bunker. Although Snake Eyes has his mask back on. Maybe certainly he might have had a spare on him. No, but and then that would mean that previously when he didn't put it back on, he was just in such a hurry to beat butt. Like he was,
beat the hell
out of I'm not even pausing to put my spare mask on. I'm just ready to get vengeance. And it's great because Quinn has to be the voice of reason here. Snake Eyes, there are 3 dudes in that room. They're all going to die. And Snake Eyes is like, you're going to die first.
Yeah. I may go down, but my God, you're going first.
We're all going to die, but I will see you in hell.
You will be keeping my seat warm there.
Mm-hmm. Completely. And now we get the full face reveal of Destro, and he looks good. It's a pretty good representation of the. I mean, they don't give him the red collar, which is I wonder if that's if they didn't have a finished product at the time of the toy. When they were making this, if they knew what he looked like, but maybe the paint applications weren't complete.
It's possible. I mean, plus too, if you looked at the original toy, the original figure, it's red on the inside, but not on the outside.
Oh, it's a good distinction. Yeah. That might have been it. Yeah. Yeah, maybe they were just looking at like some photos and hadn't actually got them in hand or something. But yeah, I mean, he looks pretty much like Destro. There's not a lot of beyond the change of red. That's pretty much the Destro that we'd come to know and love. Whereas the Baroness is still rocking that non-comic look or non-toy look rather.
It looks like she found an old Hydra suit and dyed it blue.
Yeah. Hydra suit. She also looks like she's wearing like a version of Cobra Commander's outfit, like he dresses this way. I'm going to do a female version of his. It'd be. Is it in these issues that she finally gets her black outfit? I forget where, or is that after? No, that's after she gets her face surgery, right? That they kind of draw her to match the toy. Yeah. We get the APC. That's exciting.
Cool. That so much cooler on the inside of that than the actual toy.
I loved the APC. It didn't do anything, but I loved it. It was sturdy.
Oh yeah, I mean, we had it. We used it.
Yeah, it was sturdy. I liked how it came apart. Sometimes
needed it. I mean, Joe's needed a bus.
Yeah, they did.
It was getting to the point they needed a vehicle that could hold a whole bunch of them to move around it.
Yeah, they absolutely did. So now we also get this issue, Scarface strapped to the table where they inject him with that virus.
Well, not Scarface, but some other guy.
Oh, you're right. I'm sorry. That looked like Scarface.
It's just some nameless dude.
Yeah.
Because he drops dead.
Right.
And we don't have Scarface dropping dead just yet.
That is true. Yeah, you're right. And Destro leading the field in a cow pasture, leading the Cobras.
Yeah. Yeah, Scarface is with Destro.
Right. Oh, that's right. And introduction of Ace, everybody. We got a Sky Striker and Ace.
Coming to a future HasLab near you.
Oh, man. Speaking of that, did you back the helicopter, the Dragonfly yet?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. It's so big.
It is. I don't know what I'm doing with it. Mike may have to move out.
Yeah. Like, it's so big. It looks great.
It does. I mean,
any predictions?
Not as expensive as I thought it was going to be.
Any predictions on what the final 2 stretch goals will be?
We talked about it. I was thinking maybe I think there'd be a female Joe in there, and I was thinking maybe female Doc.
Oh, fun! Yeah, it was, of course, listeners. Rob's talking about it on their fabulous podcast, "What's on Joe Mind."
That's right.
Give it a listen, give it a share, plug the damn show.
I think they're definitely going to be Joes.
What's that?
I don't think we get any. I think they're definitely going to be Joes. I don't think we get any Cobra.
Yeah, no, for sure. Yeah, I think of the female Doc would be cool. Because we haven't had Doc yet, right? In the class.
We haven't had Doc.
Yeah.
And I think Doc's a character you could probably do regular release.
Probably Doc first, but also I would be cool with Lifeline. Because it does make sense to have a medic in the helicopter, right? So that matching those makes total sense. I love Lifeline's look. You know, Carla Greer's cool. Doc Greer's
and he comes
cool.
with a lot of stuff.
Yeah, Lifeline's look is really, really good. I think he'd be fun too.
The 30th anniversary Lifeline that they did 3 3/4, that is one tricked out figure.
Really?
Yeah, I mean it's loaded with as much stuff as you would expect an old 12-inch Joe to come.
But no guns, or did he have guns?
No, he does.
They gave him guns.
Yeah,
pacifist.
He's got a pistol. He's got a rifle. And then he's also got like an injector gun, a hypodermic gun.
It's funny for the guy. I was looking at his costume the other day. I was actually doing. I added listeners. Lifeline is available in WWE 2K23 as a wrestler right now. I made his skin. I made his skin the other day. Use hashtag Lifeline, hashtag Joe on Joe to find all my skins. I've made like 53 at this point that are available. All unique, all my creations. They're awesome. They're fun. But I did Lifeline. And I look at the costumes pretty closely, and I see that, I don't know if I ever remembered this, but like his holster in the front is empty.
Yeah.
He's the pacifist. So sure, you could look at that as him saying, I'm not going to carry a gun in a battle. But he's the pacifist with a holster on his chest. So I look at that as saying, no, I'm just always drawing my gun. I'm ready to go. Like I don't... Most of the other guys have pistols on their character. The pistol is in the holster.
Yeah.
He's one of the only few that has an empty holster, implying he's got it in his hand, ready to go.
And he did come with a pistol.
Yes, he did. And he's the pacifist.
Well, he's a pacifist. The pacifist is never mentioned on his file card.
It was in the cartoon. You're right on that. It was in the cartoon, and it's in the comic too, right? Yeah.
And he was nowhere near as big a weenie about it as he was on the cartoon.
Well, you can't put it on his file card when you literally give him a gun. You can't. That wouldn't make any sense at all.
It's on Doc's file card.
That he's a pacifist?
Yeah.
Did he come with a rifle?
No, he came with a flare launcher.
Right. See,
that thing he's got. It's a flare launcher.
Yeah.
Basically,
See, they didn't give him a gun.
For
if you give
landing zone extraction.
If you give the guy a gun, you can't mention the pacifism. You get too many kids confused. And that's it for part 1 of our conversation with Racktime Rob of the What's on Joe Mind podcast. Make sure you give them a listen. I know you already are. Join us next week as we dig into issues 15 through 19 of this Real American Hero deep dive of issues 10 through 19. And now you, Joe, and Joeing is half the battle.